we're in the Q&A for Box 5. I have a sense and a feeling that we're going to have a lot of conversations on this one. Ski, questions, thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, you were right about this 7 minutes doesn't give this anything close to justice. The one thing that popped out at me was, and you went over it rather quickly, but tell me more about this magic seed.
Yeah, it's an amazing course. So it's Box 12. So what you do on that is it's a 7-week course, I believe, if I remember correctly. And so it's magical. It's like you research your Box 13. So Box 13 is why prospects are lost. So you go in and you find out where your Box 13, why you're losing your prospects. It's called the Army Casualty Principle, Box 13 is. So in the military, in the Army, if there's a death on the battlefield, they go ahead and research that death. Well, that doesn't do the person who died any good. Well, of course not, but it does help to prevent future deaths. But that doesn't happen in business, by and large. And you almost need somebody outside yourself, because a lot of times your prospects might like you and they might not tell you the truth on why they didn't work with you, because people don't like to do that. They don't want you to feel bad or whatever. But you find out why your prospects are lost. Then what you do is you find a client. Let's say price is one of the biggest reasons. So we lost based on price. And so you find a client that had that same objection, and you ask them how they overcame it. Like, you had some concerns about price. Like, why did you decide to go with this? So what you're doing is you're researching, you're servicing clients to find somebody that had that. I know how you feel, felt, and found. It's that essentially you're automating that. Tom Coons has like the most amazing story, past, present, largest real estate franchise in the world. And so they were generating, I don't know, a couple 100,000 leads a month. And to get a lead where it wasn't qualified, the broker owner, so they dished all these hundreds of thousands of leads out to their 170,000 agents around the country. And to say a lead was dead, the broker owner had to sign off on it. The manager had to do it. I think the sales manager had to do it, and the agent had to do it. So you had to have 4 people who say, this is a dead lead. And Tom's like, I don't think, there's no way. So he had an outside firm come in and research it, and I forget what the numbers were, but it was huge. It's like 20% of the people had bought with somebody. So here you got agents and 3 other people saying that's a bad lead, but they actually 20% bought right away. Like 30% were planning on buying within the next 2 or 3 months. What is that, 50%? Another 30% were buying in a year, and only 20% of them were bad leads. And so often salespeople, if they're not the ones generating the lead, they might not work the lead so well. But even if they're the ones generating the lead, they don't have systems. It's like a fishery, like the fishery principle, which is a really cool principle. And so if you don't, so you research Box 13, you find success stories in Box 12, you take the success stories and then you feed them back into Box 5, and then you pump those into your prospects, and those will move your prospects along. Questions, Ski?
No, that's good. That's good, thanks.
Paul, questions, thoughts you have?
No questions, thoughts. It works because it works. I've managed teams forever, and what's interesting is the touch rule, and I don't know why they kind of understand the principle, but they will stop at 2 or 3, maybe 4, and nobody really has the discipline, which I think is the key word, to make it the 10. then move on. Stop quitting at 4 or 3 or 2.
So, Allison, does this answer your question from our conversation yesterday? Essentially, you never quit with your prospects, even after 10. You have systems, though, that take them and work them after 10 or 2 or 3. Again, that goes back into your box 4, box 3 and 4. So box 3 is your air traffic controller. So if they're a high-quality lead, you drive them down into sales. And if they're a lower-quality lead right near now, a smaller fish, you keep them in area 2 sales and let your systems touch and follow up with them.
Sure. Mark?
Yes.
Is there a recording that you can send me? Because
Yep.
I cannot see it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions that you have, Allison?
No, I really got to do this. Because the problem with me is when people don't, respond, that's where I give up.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we just got a client about 6 months ago. He is a CPA, and our strategic strike had been touching him for 5 years. And that's happened a lot. It is a long time. It is a long time. Avalinda, questions you have?
I was wondering if we have tested the order of emails that works best. If we start out with BC and the events and calendar, or ask them their servicing questions.
So it's a high-level question, yeah. So based on the group of people, you can think of, if you're a fisherman and you're out and you're fishing for salmon and you have to have a 20-pound fish to make it worthwhile. Anything less than that, you throw back into the water. So what's better than catching an 18 or 19-pound fish in that situation? It's not catching them, because it takes time and resources to throw them back in, measure them, throw them back in. What's better than that is you take the 18-pound fish, you take it back to shore and put it in a fishery. Now, an 18-pound fish you'd feed differently than a 3 or 4-pound fish. And so the same thing with prospects. You need different strategic strikes for different types of prospects. So depending, like somebody who's coming over the internet, the average sales closing ratio is maybe 1 to 2%. So somebody coming over the internet, you'd need a different strategic strike than somebody coming from a referral partner.
Yes.
And, and first-time home buyers, let's say in the mortgage or real estate industry, they would need a different strategic strike probably than somebody who's, buying, an investor. So you want box 6, which is what the next box we'll be looking into, is group people and messages together. And so...
Okay, I got it.
So in the grouping people and messages together, you typically have your first strategic strike is a global one that anyone will work. Like it doesn't matter what prospect, if they're 2 pounds or 18 pounds, if they're brand new, or you build a global strategic strike that works with every prospect. Then what you do is once you get your first one built, then you build a strategic strike to work with specific groups of people, like first-time home buyers or coming from referral partners. And then in communication, in your written communication or your marketing communication, you often start your communication, the first strike, if you don't know the person. Well, generally, the first one is going to be to the driver personality, not solely, but often, because the driver is the least patient, which is big picture, bottom line, profit, speed, and getting ahead. Your next touch will go to the expressive personality. A little more, and that's fun, excitement, testimonials, it's fun to work with you. The third strategic strike is going to be the analytic because they want to know the details. And then the fourth strategic strike is the amiable, which is the relational. And again, there's some flexibility on that, but that gives you, big picture.
Yes. Thank you.
Other questions?
No.
When you are building a strategic strike, you also want to consider, the prospects, why prospects are lost. So that needs to be integrated into your strategic strike as well. And you want testimonies because the testimonies, sell. So in box 2, we learned about the 6 things that make a message sticky from sticky messages or made to stick. And so your copy has to be really sticky, and then you want to integrate your success stories that connect all of those pieces together. You also want to consider the demographic, age, gender, ethnic, income, and so all of those things need to be considered too when you're building a strategic strike. So again, like we said, it is brain surgery. It is rocket science. I mean, it's crazy, how much goes into this. Anyone have any other questions or thoughts on this before we go to our next topic? We all good? Okay, so we're going to go to our next topic. For those, that will not be recorded. For those that are participating in this, again, talk to your Action Vision coach, and they'll give you additional information on how you put all of this together. If you have any other questions, connect with them. Always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. God bless. Have an amazing day.